Welcome to Wildspire. You get to be a fly on the wall for my intimate conversations with entrepreneurs who are changing the world. I'm your host, Stephanie Benedetto, coach, storyteller, and unmarketer at The Awakened Business, helping coaches and change-making entrepreneurs unleash their inspired message and share it with playful unmarketing. I'll ask curious questions and explore uncharted waters with my guest today. Anything can happen when we step into the unknown of infinite creativity, and that's where we're going to play. My guest today is Gretchen Maurer. Gretchen shares fascinating stories from her diverse life experiences, everything from styling hair and working with brides to counseling for people with drug addiction and those in a gangster lifestyle. Now, rather than seeing these obstacles and challenges in her life as problems, Gretchen speaks about them with gratitude for the color that they added to her life. And I love this perspective as it demonstrates the creativity and openness that she brings to everything that she does. Let me tell you a little bit more about her. Gretchen Maurer is a former salon owner with over 30 years in the industry. She was a platform updo artist, a published freelance bridal stylist, and a contributing editor for a number of local and national magazines. She's the author of 2 books, The Business of Bridal Beauty, written for the salon industry, and The Morning of Your Wedding, written for brides. Gretchen created the first wedding hair website on the internet in 1998 that was recognized by Brides magazine as the #1 beauty site in 2002. Weddinghair.com sold step-by-step hair kits to brides and stylists around the world until 2008. Currently, Gretchen runs the largest updo and hairstyle education Facebook group with close to 20,000 worldwide members. She's the creator of the Updo System Champion course on updosystem.com. Gretchen co-owns a mental health and coaching practice with her husband and is a certified coach with a focus on helping others find clarity. And now, meet the colorful and tender-hearted transformation artist known as Gretchen Maurer. Hi, Gretchen, and welcome to Wildspire. It's a pleasure to have you here today. And Gretchen has truly left this conversation open. So we are entering into this with absolutely no idea or not even a set starting point for our conversation other than welcome. Okay. Hey, nice to see you.
Hey, Steph.
And I love that. I have to say that I love when people show up really ready and willing to explore. It is one of my favorite things to do. And I'm happy to explore any terrain. But stepping into that space and seeing what's happening and noticing what's happening is super cool. Gretchen, you are an artist, one who happens to be a hairstylist, but also being an artist is, I think it's more than that. So I'd love to know, what does being an artist mean to you? What do you think about that?
That's a really good question. I think it's definitely a journey. I had the first half of life, so I'm going to live to 120, so I'm only 60. So, right? This is the first half of life. It was somewhat negative in the, my mother always supported it. She got me artsy things. I won an art contest as a kid and drawing, and I got sewing lessons. So she definitely supported it. But then there was this second message where my grandmother, who painted, she also had problem with alcohol, and there was this dynamic between my mom and my grandma. She's an only child, and my grandmother's an only child. So it was this intense relationship, and I'm an only daughter. So it was just the 3 of us. We were like a tribe. But I picked up a lot that, my mom would say to me, my grades were not good. Gretchen, if you keep bringing home C's, you're going to end up a hairdresser. And that was the beginning for me, really. She married my dad, who was Ivy League and border school educated, all this stuff. And prep school and all that. And my mom grew up where where both parents were factory workers. I don't know where she thought we would go, but we both ended up artists. And so there was like, finally, when like I got engaged at 19 to my husband, she's like, well, and I dropped out of college. She's like, well, what are you going to do? You're going to flip hamburgers? You might as well go to beauty school. And I was like, oh, really? Like, I'm so excited, And so there was this journey of coming to peace with that. And it was a journey, a huge journey. I remember being in a seminar for a 4-day lockdown retreat with a bunch of other women. I was 33 and I didn't like to like clicky find friends. I like to find an empty table and see who would come and sit with me. And so this woman came, this beautiful woman. She sat down. She said, so Gretchen, what do you do? And I literally broke down. Like this was a huge breakdown. I couldn't tell her I was a hairdresser. I started to cry. I walked out of the lunchroom. I literally collapsed in the hallway and fell into the fetal position, bawling. And then these precious women just kind of like, there was this beautiful contemporary cross at the end of the hallway. And they literally kind of like picked me up and dragged me. And there was these beautiful tumbled rocks at the base of the cross. And I remember grabbing one and holding it. And they just poured like love on me and prayed for me. And they were complete strangers. Like I had no idea who these women were, but everything that came out of their mouth was healing and precious. And when it was over, I felt such a relief. And I can tell the story now. I still get a little emotional, but so I remember holding the rock and I thought, well, I'll keep it for the weekend. I said, no, I'm not going to keep it. And it was like I made this conscious decision to put the rock back in the pile. And I was completely transformed that day, like overnight, completely. The first couple of days of getting into this retreat, like I had a seminar at a bridal shop and I had to teach these women what's the best hairstyle and headpiece for their wedding gown. And I ended up late to the seminar and everyone else was already in the first activity. And I was this 8-foot table with my one little name card on it. And then I go into the room where they give you the bedding. And I had this little cot at the end of the hallway because everyone else had grabbed the good beds. And then I get led into the seminar, and I was a bitch. Like I was nasty, angry. I wouldn't participate in the groups. I would purposely sabotage the cute little artwork that they were trying to do. And so that's how I was the first day and a half. And then like this third day when I was sitting at lunch and I knew I had alienated everybody and this woman came and sat with me and then that happened. And it just was a shift. I was burned out. I came home. I literally closed my salon. I went back home to be mom. My kids at that point were 8 and 10. I'm like, okay, I didn't screw them up too bad. I got some years left with them before they're teenagers. And so that's the artist's journey, at least for me, because it wasn't pretty, but now I'm loving every minute of it. I know who I am. This is who I am. My mom's come around. Like she and I are best friends now. She's 83, 84. And she's proud, right? She's proud. I heard I love you from her for the first time in my late 50s. So yeah, it's a journey. And for other people, I'm sure it's a different journey, but that was basically mine.
Gretchen, what was it that transformed you like that? Like, what did you see that transformed you in that moment that you mentioned?
I was to the point of exhaustion. I was depressed. I was exhausted. I had no energy. I had no life. I wasn't kind to my family, my kids. I was on that treadmill of trying super, super hard to make something of myself. I think to prove something because of that beginning part of the story. But there was incredible shame in that I carried, I think, because of what I saw in my childhood in that regard. Um, and so I lost your question. What was it that what was the
Yeah, I'm wondering, what did you see that changed things, or what did you notice? What occurred to you to create that transformation?
It was permission. I gave myself permission to be done. I gave myself permission to not look at it as failure. I had staff, I'm like, oh, I'm going to ruin their lives. I had like 5 people had a place. There was also a letter, the way this retreat worked, like people who loved you could leave you little note cards. And so like I said, I was so pissed off the first couple of days. I didn't even want to go to this retreat. So it's kind of like your husband's supposed to go to retreat first, and then you're supposed to go to the next one. And I wouldn't even go to the next one. I had to go to the next one. So every day, at the end of the day, there would be little love cards on your note on your bed, and I would sweep them all to the floor. Like I didn't care about anything or anyone else. And then after that breakdown, I went back to my room exhausted. I laid on my bed and I said, oh, let me see if there's anybody in this whatever. And I reached over and I grabbed, like I'm telling you, there's 50 cards on the floor. I grabbed the first one. I picked it up. I ripped it open. I didn't even look at the handwriting. And all of a sudden, I'm realizing it's from my husband. And he writes in the letter to me that if I found out on the weekend that it was time for me to close the salon, that he had my blessing. And I was like, okay. And then that was the click. Like, I'm not going to let him down. So now I got to go home and try to manage shifting my people. And yeah, it was just, there was so much confirmation. I in my faith practice, I mean, I just know it was from the God and from the Lord. And it just, so that permission is that word. Like I gave myself permission. He gave me permission, and so I came home and I walked in. Well, it took a while. I sat in the car crying and then staring in the rearview mirror at a salon that happened to be near my house, so going in to ask for a job. But they knew who I was. They knew my salon. And they're like, yeah, of course you're welcome here. So I went there and I brought half my team there and doubled their income. But anyways, but I did it for me so that I could be home, be mom, and give myself permission to quote unquote fail. But I had to really say it was like, I think I bought my salon when I was like 29 and my kids were 3 and 5. So I really didn't have enough life behind me really. And running and managing people was not who I was. Being an independent artist and managing myself and being an entrepreneur, that's who I was. And I didn't know that then. So that was a shift. So permission.
Wow. Do you think of it as a failure now when you look back?
No. I think of it as a season, and I shifted and I realized, and what was funny is right before that happened, I had applied to publishers to get a book contract. And I had to send in a sample chapter, and I had to send in the outline. I had to do all that. And I won the book contract. So then now I had time to write this book. And it was a huge book. It's kind of like a textbook. I had to have models and I had to hire a photographer, and it was probably almost a 2-year process. So I also saw that as like just permission again, that this is now what I'm supposed to do. And so that's been that.
Wow. You know what I hear in that story, Gretchen, is that, you were in this place that was kind of dark, what I might call the the stormy clouds of thinking, right? Like you were just in it, you were stewing in it and went to this retreat really like, I don't want to be here, not cooperating. And then there was this moment of, whatever occurred to you when that woman asked that question and you broke and you cried and you let go. And it's like what I see in that, and I don't think we have to wait for it to come to that place. But what happened and what often happens with that breakdown is like a giving up, like a letting go. Like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to try, and letting go. And so quickly, the things just started coming to you. The message of God and the letter from your husband and these other things just unfolded. And even without planning it, it worked out to open up the path for having time for your book. And I mean, of course, we can say this in hindsight, right? But which you didn't know then. But I love that. I love this story because I think it speaks to the nature of creation and how we're guided, and that the less we try to figure it out and cling to and go into the darkness of our thinking and the darkness of what we might be feeling, not avoiding it, but not perpetuating it, and find that space which is within, in whatever way that occurs to you. Some people do it through meditation, others through prayer, through walking in the woods, whatever way it occurs to you. What you need is there. What we need is always right there. And when we get quiet, we will hear it. So that's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'm a stubborn kraut. So it just took me to that point, but I'm grateful for it. I really am.
So I want to ask you, and I'm shocked at myself that I didn't ask you before this. So you have a head on a stand, like a mannequin head with a beautifully gorgeous red hair wig on it. This mannequin has and the flowers in the hair, and that's a beautiful hairstyle, really. But like, does she have a name?
I've got 13 of these ladies. So I just basically call them the girls.
The girls. And it's the real hair. Well, I have one right here that's easier to get. Their hair is attached.
Oh.
And then they get a transformation haircut, maybe some color. And then each one represents like a kind of like your bride. So if your bride has a particular type of hair, I probably have that head here to help teach you how to do hair.
Yeah. So you actually cut their hair and color them?
Their hair and color it, and I make the hair ornaments and yeah, it's super, super fun. I find heads on eBay. I love to find old discarded heads that some hairdressing school was done with, and they ended up in a tag sale. And I spent hours giving them haircuts and makeovers and hair color. And I love every minute of it.
Wow. So are they like your canvases?
Yeah. Yeah. It's what I teach on. This one here, she just happens to be short. So like she might be a mother of the bride or a second time bride who's, got shorter hair. And so how do you work with layers? And yeah, there's a whole crew of ladies here.
Wow. That's so cool. I love that you do that. And when you talk about it, the way that you light up about how fun it is and how creative it is. So what is it about doing your art with hair that draws you? Like, what is it that you love about that?
We talk in the industry, we talk about hair as fiber. And we talk about the head as kind of the canvas, and the extra element that there's a human being underneath. And certainly during COVID, our industry was incredibly impacted, and it still is. In some countries, they're still in lockdown. So
kind of started the group at the right time because it flooded with people wanting to continue to be able to do what they love, but not be able to touch people and work on clients. So I felt so happy to be that respite for them. And in college, when I was there for the 1 year, I took an art class, and it was a sculpting class. And then when I was pregnant with my daughter, before I was really working a lot, I took a flower arranging class. So I've learned that I am like a 360-degree artist, not a flat canvas. Like, I can do flat canvas work as well, but I like the texture of hair. I like solving problems, maybe with a face shape. I like adding in hair, and I've had clients who have had health issues and brain surgery, and how can I cut her hair when half of her hair is missing because half her skull is gone? Like, I just love that, figuring it out, I guess. And so taking a mannequin head that's been trashed and conditioning her hair and then coloring it, and then, working with a bride who, oh, you can't do anything with me, I have crappy hair, or I never wear makeup and I don't feel pretty. And then that transformation process is, give me a challenge because I just love helping people feel better than they knew they could be, especially on their wedding day or prom. I love prom kids. Adore prom kids.
What do you love about the prom kids?
Oh, and I think it's that challenge of winning them over. Because they come in with the mood sometimes, like if they're you get the prom queen who comes in knowing everything. She's got her pack of girls with her. She's got the gorgeous dress. She's on her phone with everybody, and she's got the whole night planned. And they're talking about hiding the vodka and the shampoo in the spray bottle of hairspray. And I'm like, just doing hair, okay. But then you get the girl that comes in a complete jock. Like, she's gorgeous, but she's a jock. And she's got her flip-flops on. And she's like, yeah, do whatever you want. And then I transform her more, right, than the girl who already thinks she's all that. And then you get the kid who's like forced to go with her cousin, and she doesn't even want to go. And then I try to shift her to talk her about herself or her life or her. I try to teach the hairdressers that this is not just a mannequin head. We're not dealing with this. There's a human being. And the moody girl who's in her stepmom's wedding, who doesn't want her dad to marry her, but she's got to be in the wedding, and she's moody and she doesn't want to cooperate. I know what it's like to be moody and not want to cooperate. And so it's like, let's just get you through this day as best we can. And again, try to relate to the human, and then take it off of hair. They don't care about their hair at that point. They don't care what they look like. They don't care what they do. That they don't want to look stupid. So anyways, I think it's a human aspect. I guess I love people. I do. I love people. So, and I think that makes you a better hairdresser when you get your mind off of worrying about the hair and them liking what you do. It's not about you as the hairdresser. It's about connecting with the person. Yeah, if I'm working on my mannequin heads, I'm the artist. Any color I want, I can make anything I want. I can do any hairstyle I want. But when I'm on a whole different shift, and there's like, you've learned hair, you've watched artists, you've bought a mannequin head, like hair, person is what I try to get through.
And what I'm struck by is that you are a transformation artist in the way that you describe it. And there are so many ways to be a transformation artist. And part of your artistry happens to be with hair, but it's also about that human connection, which is a real opportunity. And I've talked to, having a background in the wedding industry, I've talked to many people in weddings, and the vast majority of them have a very strong connection to the people, the relationship people, and often family is very important to them, of course. But it's very rare to find someone who doesn't like people in the wedding industry, or they don't last very long.
True. Very true. Very true. I think when I run into that, it's usually the hairdresser who's stuck in the salon and says she has to get through wedding season and prom season. And they just want to get them in their chair and out. And I want to kind of help them that there can be a different way, But as a kid, I would say, obviously the Cinderella story, and then the Brady Bunch, where they make over this little girl in the Brady Bunch TV show. So that makeover transformation thing is on point, definitely.
Mm. So when we were speaking earlier, Gretchen, you said that you've went from gangsters to brides. And can you tell me a little bit about that part of your story? And
yeah, so my husband, I guess it probably starts with our oldest daughter, who had a rough childhood, and we didn't realize, we knew, quote unquote, in the 80s, ADHD, and she was a girl, and she had a very aggressive type of impulsivity. And then now that she's 36, I think, we've realized she's slightly on the spectrum. She's managed life as best she can. And she would she was terribly bullied. And then the kids that she started to bring home into our life were kids whose parents were in jail, and one family where there was 3 boys, but everybody had a different daddy, and one other kid's mom was an alcoholic, and she lost custody. And so anyways, he's raised by his grandparents. And so she was bringing, and I honor her in this, she was bringing these fringe kids into our world. My husband and I, middle class, never got in trouble. She would steal the car and go to the mall. She would do all kinds of things, ran away with a drug dealer when she was 17. And she brought color to our world. And so then we had all these kids hanging out at the house, and we'd help this one get some help, and then we helped this one. And then I'm trying to teach them about sex and, and treating girls right. And so we had this little mini camp literally in our house. So around that point, my husband left the family business and went to school to be a counselor. He wasn't sure if he wanted to be a counselor or a pastor. And I'm like, honey, don't make me a pastor's wife, please. I'm like, I might have blue hair and, green nails or whatever. But anyways, that's the joke in the family. So he became a counselor. And just about the time where I had gotten to my dream wedding, I had a 2-day wedding in Newport, Rhode Island, $2,000. It was like, it was the worst wedding ever. It was just awful. So I was at the pinnacle of my career, and he wanted to change his career. And so he changed his career. So he needed to get some education, some hands-on experience. And our daughter at that time, we had sent her away to, I don't want to say rehab, but it kind of is like a rehab, but it's a farm. It's a working farm where the young people between 18 and 35 spend a year working the farm. Anything from eating disorders to trauma to gang members to, missionaries' kids, pastors' kids, kids who've been raped in the mission field. Like, the stories are horrific. And every religious background you can think of. So she went there for a year, and she transformed. And so then so she's like, Mommy, Daddy, things are changing up here. And they didn't have any therapy. I knew they didn't. They didn't understand her ADD. They didn't have any counselors. It was old school kind of. So my husband applied to be a counselor up there. So that literally, we were missionaries. So he was making over 100K. I was doing well in the bridal. And we sold our house, sold everything, gave up our careers, and moved up to this farm, moved into a little cabin on the hill, and literally helped rewrite the program. And so that was another transformation where we just were thrown into a new environment. I'm like, what am I going to do? I do hair. Well, I eventually worked on work crews. I worked in the gardens. I love remodeling and stuff. So they would give me all the ADD kids. Here, take these guys and go do this, go do that. And so we had everything from ex-gang members to adopted kids who were adopted into a wealthy home. So I had one girl, like she never touched a toilet in her life and we had to make her clean the toilets. And then it was just a mix, an absolute mix. And we were there 7 years and then we went to another men's home and we did that for 3 years. So, we're dealing with guys that are high and the girlfriend's mailing him drugs through the mail. And I'm like, why is so-and-so always getting the mail every day now? Because she was mailing him drugs and like we had to deal with that. And I can't even tell you the stories. So I was a house mom there and the cook. And so that was from 2005 to about 2015. And then I came back and my husband started private practice. And I'm like, all right, I got to go back into brides. I miss them. I'm going to go back online. And because I started online in the 90s with weddinghair.com. And so that's how I just have this amazingly colorful life. And I think all that now, on top of now we do mindfulness, we are clean diet, we meditate, we understand the brain science now. So now I'm going back into the wedding industry with this whole other component that I think that I know is helpful. So that's how I've gone from, all those different kinds of beautiful people.
I'm really curious. What do you notice, if you do, is kind of emerging now? And let me tell you what I mean by that question. Like, these things that happen, these big changes and transformations in your life, it's not, it can seem like, bam, you just did it. But hearing you tell it, it was sort of like these things just started to happen. Like, oh, I have to go back to my daughter because my daughter started hanging out with these groups of people and bringing them around. And it was like we had this camp in our home and it just started happening. And it reminds me of, I've been thinking about Michael Singer's book, The Surrender Experiment, and how he just wanted to like sit alone and meditate on his property, but people started showing up and they wanted to meditate and he ended up and they were camping out on his property. And as he surrendered, it just sort of happened. He was like, oh, I guess I have a retreat center. And it's sort of like these things are just happening through us and happening around us. So I'm wondering, as you look at this journey, as you notice what's happening, what happened, what's happening, and what's happening for you now, because I heard you say like you've taken what you learned through that experience of working in recovery and doing counseling back into the bridal industry, back to hair. And what do you notice is happening now? Like, where is your inspiration taking you?
I think in educating myself, because I was gone so long and we didn't really have television and our internet connection was shoddy. So I literally was cut off for 15 years. And so I had to do a lot of research, like what is happening in the industry right now. I'm still finding some of my old contemporaries still at it and connecting with them. And then I ran across mental health group for hairdressers and I joined it. And so then I'm hearing what the hairdressers are saying, how they're burned out and certain people want to please people and seeing, and there's trauma. Some of the hairdressers have trauma. I have a Me Too story and literally like the week before it was on Time Magazine's cover, I ended up doing my Me Too story on my YouTube channel. And so I know just statistically that what people have as a story. And so if I could bring that to them for those who need it or want it or are seeking it, then I'm happy to be that person in my niche that can just do more than just teach you hair, if that's the case. And I had hired a coach, and I will say people hire coaches. We've had at least 6 different coaches of different kinds. And I was telling her, I said, I don't know how to mirror my mental health and my bridal and my real brides, like how do, and the hairdressing. And so anyway, she helped me see how I could do it all together. And then that's been the journey. So I think right now people are more accepting of therapy. They're open to coaching. There's more transparency in pain and trauma. And then having the mental health practice and watching my husband working with his team, it's just good timing, to kind of be okay with it.
I love that. I love how we can create these businesses that integrate all these diverse interests and passions and talents that we have, as you're doing, in a really interesting way. And of course, I mean, there are so many, I don't know the numbers in the industry, but there are so many people who are doing hair. And out of those people, so many of them need, I remember your description the other day of what you do in your hairstylist business education. You're addressing pieces of business, like how to get business. You're addressing how to do these updos and styling and, the mannequins, as we've been talking about, and working with that, teaching people how to improve their styling abilities. And then you're also dealing with, how do you communicate with your clients? How do you help them get in touch with the humanness of what they're doing? But also what I'm hearing is in that there's this element of attending to their own trauma, distress, stories, the things that are happening in their lives. And so it's sort of becoming a place where people can hang out with others who are like them, who have interests that are like them, and be vulnerable and authentic and share and learn and grow and get the support that they need. And that's really beautiful.
It is. I feel like a mama hen, and I'm very protective. There's certain keywords if they come up, if someone is negative or is rude, I'll connect. I'll send them a message, and that's not what we're about. We're open. We're friendly. We're kind. We're loving and supportive. And so yeah, that was part of my goal for that. Now the group's at 20,000 people. I'm feeling a little like I feel like I'm going to miss somebody. And so, I have to kind of think about next steps.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that as you're saying it. Is there, this is an off the wall question a little bit, but it's really a curiosity. I don't know if you're interested in it or not, but you have this background in building and creating teams and creating programs. Would you be interested in doing that for this? Like you said, there are 20,000 people in your group, and many of them, I'm sure, could use some support and connection. And there's one of you. Have you thought about putting together a team or having some kind of program or something around that?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it, and I think that's why I called my friend last night who has her bridal business in Australia, and then I've joined probably 30 other groups, and I'm friends with some of the other admins, and so I'm in that stage right now of trying to think. I want to do a membership so that there's kind of some things on autopilot, and then it'll be more intimacy in a smaller group. I mean, I could say 20,000 people, but in the world of the internet, that means there's probably 5,000 really interested people. And even still, 5,000 is a lot. And they come in and they come out. So I'm going to create some smaller situations that will attract the people who want it, So so I'm working on that. I have a meeting in a week with some tech people that are going to help me figure that out.
Yeah, I can feel it, Gretchen. I can feel it. That's why I asked about it. I was like, ooh, what's that? I never know, but I get curious and I ask, and usually there's something there. And I just want to point out for you, but even more so, not just for you, for anyone who might be listening, that it's still happening. Like what was happening that we can trace backwards and with hindsight, see the breadcrumbs that you are following is happening now. And everything that we are creating is happening from the place that we are in this moment. And all we have to do is just slow down enough and listen and notice, oh, that's happening. Like there's something emerging. Here are these people and in like, wow, there are all these people and I really want to reach them. And I want to reach them in these ways that I'm not doing now. And I want to reach them more. I want to have a greater impact. And then that desire in you inspires you to, I'm going to talk to, I think that's why I reached out to my friend in Australia. Like, it's not a plan from the head. It's like, oh, it's time to start talking to people and just seeing where it carries you. And that is how things unfold and take us to beautiful places that we never could have imagined that we would go. Yeah. So as you feel into that now, what do you notice in this moment that is emerging?
A lot of fear. And that dance between quality, monetizing something, leaving a legacy. Who can I leave this to in 15, 10 years if I'm, ready to move on to something else? Like, yeah, I'm doing that. I'm kind of looking for that understudy in a sense. And it could be our industry, we're all artists and we all have put our stake in the ground of our own little Instagram following. We've got our tribe and we've got our people and I might not find that person, but I'm a clarity coach. That's what I've named myself because I really like to move forward with clarity. It might sound like I kind of move forward without it. I guess it works both ways. And yeah, or something that's too big that I can't handle anymore because I had that breakdown when things were too big and I couldn't handle. So I've had to get some coaching over like, it doesn't mean you're going to repeat the past. Doesn't mean I have to work myself to exhaustion. But being in your group, in your play group, and with all your people has really helped me to just kind of carve out my own path. There's not right or wrong. Hone down what I want, who fits and what fits with me. And then on that journey, I believe it will unfold. And then I can't help everybody. I can't be there for everybody. And I have to be okay with that. That acceptance piece. If I didn't give everyone who joined the group a thumbs up, like if I didn't, so yeah.
And I heard you just move through so much right there, Gretchen, like from the first wave of fear, but then you just refocused onto what you want to create and onto what's happening. I mean, I saw it.
Okay.
in real time. I was like, wow, it's really cool that if, fear's natural. It's fearful thinking happens all the time. It's like the weather is blowing through us and sometimes it blows fear our way. And if we don't engage with it, it blows something else on through. It just blows on through and something else comes. And there's this beautiful gift that we have in noticing it and then being able to just redirect our attention. And you did it very naturally. You kind of talked yourself through it. I saw you, okay. I heard you do it. And I think it was so, do you notice it now that I'm saying it?
Yes. As much as it can feel like incredibly jumbled and I don't know what to do in the next 5 minutes. I think I've had enough coaching that I know it's possible.
Yeah.
Coaches help you to know what you don't know is possible and that the answer will be there. And I just am grateful for that. I'm grateful for, all the coaches that we've put on their credit card because we didn't think we could afford them, but honestly, people, it's priceless.
Mm, I would say that myself. Like it would be scary for me to look at how much money I have invested in coaching, coaches and coach training and personal development. Oh my goodness. And continue to every year. But it's also just a joy for me now. It's just so fun. There's always something new to see. Yeah. There was something you said, Gretchen, that about clarity, right? Being a clarity coach. And then you pointed out, but it sounds like I have clarity, but then it seems like sometimes I just do things and I don't have clarity. And I think, and I love that you said that, because I think clarity is immensely overrated, because people come to me and they say, I want to feel confident. I want to have clarity about what I'm doing. Now at the surface, that seems like a really beautiful thing. And it can be, of course. But what happens is if you're waiting for the clarity to start moving, to start following the nudges, you're holding up the works, you're plugging up the flow. Clarity comes in the moment of doing it. It does not come before. And we can have clarity in the moment, but it's in the moment that we're in. It's not about the next 5 years. And that's not to say that we can't have a vision that directs us and guides us and pulls us in. But the clarity that we want, and even the confidence that we want, comes in the doing of these things. And it's transient. It passes. I have moments of clarity and I have moments of cloud and confusion. I have moments of confidence and I have moments of massive insecurity. And sometimes they can go through so quickly. It's like moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. And at this point, more of the time, I'm not going to say all of the time or even most, but more of the time, I just roll with it.
Yes.
And that's something that I see that we can do as clarity coaches, as addressing this thing called clarity, is to go, how clear are you right now? That's okay. Know that it will settle and you'll get clearer as you need it. And that as you move forward, what you're doing will become clearer. You'll be clearer about what you want to do. Because in the beginning, we don't know. No. You're pioneering new territory here by taking these different things and creating something new, by creating hairstyling, artistry, transformation, business. And I bet there are probably not many people who are doing that in the world, and no one who's doing it in the way that you will. So
right.
You're finding your own path in it. And the clarity comes as you get in the mix, as you get your hands dirty, as I like to say.
Yes, it does. And I think also the years we spent working with people who had addiction and they maybe had their children taken away. And I remember working with one girl who had lost her custody of her kid. And just one of the things I would say to the ladies in my groups were, there's a Bible verse that he's a light unto your path. And so you have to realize that a path is for walking on. And if you're walking with a flashlight at night and you're lighting your path, it only lights up so far ahead of you. And so you don't get the full picture, because you're going to learn in the journey. You're going to find out who you are in the journey. And so exactly what you said is exactly what happens. And there was another story I would tell the girls, like, listen, you're going to jump out of an airplane, but you can't pull your parachute right away. You have to float. You have to scream. You have to kick. You have to, listen to your tandem person or whatever. And then you'll be caught. You'll be caught and you'll land. And that's as much as any of us wish there's a how-to book. There's no how-to book for life. I'm sorry. It's a journey, and there's seasons, and you have years of addiction. I mean, we have grandbaby, quote unquote, people who had heroin addiction, people who were in jail, and now I see their baby pictures of their children, and then we lost plenty to suicide, and so there's both sides. And if you could help someone know that there's answers in the journey and in the movement, take those steps because you'll get clarity in the steps.
That's beautiful. Gretchen, if you could give a message to the people who you most want to deliver that message to, whoever they are, you might think of that person. So if you could deliver that message that they most need to hear, that you think would make the biggest difference for them, what would it be?
I would say that everything you have and need is within you. I know that can be a cliche statement that people say. Everything you have and you need is in a YouTube video somewhere or in a coach. And to love and accept yourself and to take those steps. There's no right or wrong. I say that a lot in my group. There's no right or wrong. And what you said about the people I can reach with my story are not the people someone else can reach with their story, but everyone has a story and everyone can reach and step into that journey where they can leave a life that they can look back on and say, I did my best. And I when I'm working with people who maybe were abused by their father or their mom or whatever, I'm like, and your body will suffer if you can't step into forgiveness. It will. But if you, and I had to do this for the 13-year-old that abused me when I think I was like 6. And I had to literally say, all right, 13-year-old kid in a messed up house with pimples all over his face. Like, I had to become that 13-year-old boy and then be okay with that. Like, that journey for moving forward, you got everything that you have, everything you've been through, everything you are, who you are, how you look, where you grew up, what your life is like. And there's golden nuggets in every bit of that for every single person. As long as you're willing to flash that light on the path and take steps. It is. There's not a single person who can't be redeemed and move forward.
That's beautiful. I think that you have this immense creative joy, Gretchen, that just it springs forth from you. And you said a couple times, she brought color into my life. Some people would talk about, oh my God, my kids were bringing this criminal element into my home. No, like, my daughter brought color into our lives. I've had a colorful life, that you can actually see the art in all of the different colors that we have, all of the different experiences. I hear you speaking to that, and there's something very comforting about it. Like, yeah, I've had them too. Maybe not as bad as some, maybe worse than others, the things I've experienced, but the joys that we have are always there too. And that, it sounds like a cliche saying that what you need is always with you. But sometimes cliches are cliches for a reason. It's only a cliche if we don't really look at it. If you brush it off as a cliche, but if we actually go, oh, yeah, and we listen to that, everybody knows if they're listening, yeah, that's true. I'm okay. And I've got what I need right here, even if I can't see it right now, because sometimes I don't. I'm not dismissing that either. That's beautiful. I love that you're taking that message into the world.
Good. Thank you for giving me the platform and bringing it out of me.
Yeah. So Gretchen, if people would like to find more about you or connect with you, where should they go?
At Gretchen Maurer is my Instagram. I'm Gretchen E. Maurer on Facebook. I do have a website, updosystem.com.
Cool.
And
what is the Facebook group on the
it is
in case
called,
people want to join?
So Updo and Hairstyle Education page and group.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. This has been a great pleasure. Thanks so much for joining me for today's Wildspire conversation. If you'd like to receive a weekly Wildspire email from me filled with inspiring stories, unmarketing experiments, tips for playing your way to impact and income without the hustle and hype, insights from my spiritual business journey, and more, go to theawakenedbusiness.com/Wildspire. Until next time, may you know yourself as the gorgeous wild creation you are.